Hello and welcome to another episode of the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast. My name is Vince Damato and I am here to give you everything you need to know this week to win your fantasy baseball leagues. Let's jump right into it and start with the waiver wire pickups for the week. I have 3 of them for you. First one is Hayden Birdsong, pitcher for the San Francisco Giants. He's only rostered in 51% of leagues, and it looks like he's going to be called up by San Francisco since Alex Cobb was dealt at the deadline. It's not official yet, but I would certainly go grab him now before the news becomes official, because by that point, it's going to be a little too late. He had terrific numbers in his first go-around in the major leagues, especially over his final 3 starts, going 16 innings, allowing 3 earned runs, and 23 strikeouts to just 8 walks. Again, he should be called up soon. We're talking about high strikeout potential here. He's got one of the best parks to pitch in, and I think he is a phenomenal waiver wire grab for the week. Second player you should be looking for on the wire this week is Tommy Pham, outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals, rostered in just 42% of leagues. He was recently traded from the White Sox to the Cardinals in that 3-team deal with the Dodgers. In the last 7 days, he is the 21st best player on the Razzball Player Rater. So he absolutely needs to be more than 42% rostered. And I think even before the last 7 days, he's been having an under the radar type season, probably because he was with the White Sox. And I absolutely think he could return some higher value in St. Louis. So far in 5 games with the Redbirds, he's hitting .471 with 4 runs and 7 RBIs. Season slash line of 278, 340, 410. Again, so he's not going to offer much power or speed, and he's hitting a little bit lower in the lineup than I would like. Obviously, it's a loaded Cardinals lineup, but he does appear to be an everyday player, corner outfielder for the Cardinals, and with that high average and OBP he offers, I think his counting stats are beautiful. If you have an outfielder that's not starting on a particular day, like for example, today Wyatt Langford is out with some back tightness, I threw Tommy Pham in there, right? I think Pham is a great substitute, a great guy to have on your bench for an outfield spot. So go get Tommy Pham because, again, I think his value is only going to go up with St. Louis. Those counting stats are going to rise, and he has certainly proven that he's a capable hitter so far this year. Last but not least, especially if you are in a saves league, go get Ben Joyce right now. Relief pitcher for the Angels. He's rostered in 46% of leagues. It's been said by Ron Washington that he's not going to be the closer yet, but I don't see how you can keep Hunter Strickland in that role any longer. I absolutely think Joyce is in line, and he did save Saturday's game against the Dodgers. For anyone who missed it, it was glorious. He ended the game with a 104.7 mile an hour heater to JD Martinez. This dude throws gas. He hasn't allowed a run since June 11th, too. So he clearly is ready for this role. The opportunities have just been slim for him. He's only thrown 24 and 2/3 innings this year, but that is to a tune of a 1.82 ERA. Again, I don't think Hunter Strickland is going to remain in that role if Ron Washington is the smart guy that we think he is. I absolutely think Ben Joyce gets a shot sooner rather than later to cement himself in that role. So if you need saves, go get Joyce now because it is only a matter of time before he takes that closer role over. Moving on to streamers for the week. Let's talk about some pitching streamers that you can grab. I have 2 of them for you. First one is a 12-team viable streamer, and that is David Festa, pitcher for the Minnesota Twins. He's rostered in 38% of leagues, so certainly widely available. I think the reason why he's still widely available is just because he, was a later season call-up, right? He wasn't with the team to start the season. He was in minor leagues, so they called him up. He is a highly touted prospect who's just had some control issues. But we're talking huge strikeout upside here. He's starting Monday against the Chicago Cubs. So as you're listening to this, go grab him right now because he had 34% strikeout rate in 60 innings in AAA this year. And then last year, 30% strikeout rate in 80 innings pitched in AA. But one thing to be cautious of is he was having walk rates around 10% in both of those sample size. So I will also mention the surface stats don't look good right now because he had one real bad start in early July, but his sample size is so small, so do not get scared off by it. If you just focus on his last 2 starts, especially, he went 9 1/3 in those 2, 3 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and 3 walks, and 13 strikeouts versus Philadelphia and the Mets. So 2 extremely hot teams. David Festa stepped up to the challenge. So I certainly expect him to step up to the Chicago Cubs, who are struggling right now to find any sort of pulse. Again, Monday versus the Cubs. I'm not expecting a quality start, so just be aware of that if you are looking for a quality start from him. It does look like there's a limit on the pitches that he's going to be throwing and has thrown. He hasn't thrown more than 81 in any start, but if you need wins or strikeout potential, this is your dude. 38% rostered. Go get David Festa. Again, we're talking even in 12 teams here. This guy is potentially a monster for you. And then my second streamer, little bit of a question mark for some people. I'm sure they're going to hear the name and they're going to go, really? Are you serious? I think this is probably a 15 to 16 team streamer, but I think it's important to bring him up because his last 2 starts have been good. And that's Martin Perez, pitcher for the now San Diego Padres. He's rostered in 31% of leagues, and he will be going Friday, August 9th versus the horrible, atrocious offense Miami Marlins. For anyone who hasn't followed Perez's season, he started off real strong, and then May, June, July, he struggled mightily. 10 starts over those 3 months, 37 earned runs in 48 innings. If you're real quick at math, you know that that's a 6.89 ERA. He was traded from from Pittsburgh to San Diego at the deadline. And over his last 2 starts, he's pitched against the Cardinals and the Rockies. And he has gone 12 innings, 1 earned, and 9 strikeouts in those 2 starts. He did have 5 walks against the Cardinals, which has me a little hesitant. But again, if you're talking 15 teams, Martin Perez absolutely could be available and probably should at least be considered, especially for a start against Miami. We have seen it, like I said, early in this year. He started off extremely strong. He looked real good for the first couple months. So I'm hoping that maybe this is some return to form. Maybe he just, I don't know what the issue was. Maybe he wasn't happy in Pittsburgh. Maybe there's an injury. Don't know what it is. Maybe it's just bad luck. But you absolutely have to at least consider starting him in 15s. If you're real bold, go for it in 12s if you're trying to start whoever. Because, again, Miami's offense is not good. Perez is on a roll. I'm absolutely looking to start Martin Perez if I can. Let's move on to our next segment, hot and not. Who's hot and who's not? I'll start with the who's hot. And this guy is not someone that I thought would make the list this year. And that's Eugenio Suarez, third baseman for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I guess I shouldn't say never thought because he's been prone to these hot and cold streaks in his career. He's rostered in 80% of Fantrax leagues, and he's just on a power binge right now. 8 for his last 21 with 4 home runs and 8 RBIs. He's hitting 435, 480, 1,043 slug in his last 7 days. The underlying stuff tells me it's not going to maintain at this level, right? And I don't think anyone necessarily expects that, but I would absolutely, if you have a Eugenio Suarez, I wouldn't mind selling high here. I think maybe he can keep this up for a little bit. But if I miss that boat, oh well, because, we've seen these types of stretches before. I was lucky I sold him in a dynasty league a couple years ago on one of his hot streaks. And well, that trade has certainly worked out for me since then because he's too hot and cold. We talk about these guys all the time where, yeah, it's great to ride them while they're hot, right? Nolan Gorman is another one that we've talked about quite a bit on the show. And I am certainly okay if Suarez figures it out for the rest of the year and I miss the boat. I'm certainly okay with that. But right now he's cooking, right? I mean, 1,000 slug in 7 days is absolutely phenomenal. So keep it up, Eugenio Suarez. We'd love to see it. But if he's on my team, I'm probably looking to sell him if I can. So Eugenio Suarez is the hot for the week. When we talk about who's not hot, typically I do a player. I just could not do it this week. I could not help myself. The Chicago White Sox are my who's not hot. If anyone's been following baseball, you've been hopefully seeing how atrocious they've been. We're talking 19 straight losses heading into Sunday. I'm recording this on Sunday before they're playing, before any games are playing. So if my numbers are a little off, please excuse me. But the White Sox with a 27-86 record as of now and a run differential of -241. They have the lowest average OBP and slug of all MLB teams. It's just atrocious. It's horrible. They have 57 fewer runs than the second lowest scoring team, the Miami Marlins. And maybe I will throw a player in here. Luis Robert Jr. is struggling. And when you're talking about one of the most talented players in all of baseball, that certainly means something. I just think he's checked out mentally, right? How can you not be? Your team has 27 wins and 86 losses, and you have lost 19 in a row. I couldn't imagine going out there and wanting to play another game if we went out and just lost 19 in a row. Over Robert's last 20 games, he's slashing 190, 247, 317 with just 2 home runs, 5 runs, and 6 RBIs. Those are not superstar numbers at all. Even with a struggling team, you'd still hope that, he could have a decent slash line, but he has done the exact opposite of that and certainly trended backwards since his start to the year. It's one of the most talented players in the world. Baseball's crazy. This team just a couple years ago had World Series aspirations, and here we are, 19 straight losses. The reason why I bring this up too is if you're looking for streamers, if you have anyone available on waivers who is going to be starting against the Chicago White Sox, I'm absolutely looking to start anyone with a pulse against this team. They are that bad, especially after the deadline, shipping away guys like Pham. Yes, they got Vargas, but they don't have anything there that gets me excited. So please start anyone that you can against the White Sox. They are ice cold right now. Go Cubs. No bias there at all. Whatever. Let's move on to the MVP of the week. Kind of easy choice here. There was a few options that I went back and forth with, but ultimately I cannot select anyone else for this other than Vlad Guerrero Jr. He is the #1 player in fantasy over this last week, first baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. And in the last 7 days, he is 15 for 26 with 4 home runs, 9 runs, and 10 RBIs. Slash line of 577, 645, 1269 slug. So that means his OPS is 1914. Unbelievable. He's on a 16-game hitting streak with 9 home runs in that span. There is not a hotter hitter on the planet right now. Vladdy is putting up a phenomenal season. And it's just, I can't put anyone else as the MVP other than Vladdy. He has been that good. So hats off to Vladdy. We love to see it. He is my MVP of this week. Finally, let's move on to the lock of the week. I am looking at a guy who I was all over this offseason, and then he came out and struggled and had some injury problems that he dealt with, but seems like he's finally coming back a little bit, and that is Jake Burger, third baseman for the Miami Marlins. Yes, I know the Marlins offense is horrible, but Jake Burger has been quite a good hitter over the last few days. 80% rostered in Fantrax leagues, so could potentially be available. I actually just picked him up in my 12-teamer this morning. We've been waiting for this guy, right? We've been waiting for this all year. We thought he was a very safe floor, high floor type of guy, and when he came out this season and didn't hit for power and didn't hit for average, it was kind of a shock to a lot of people, and myself included. But the last 7 days, he's slashing 348, 423, 870 with 4 home runs and 7 RBIs. He had some oblique problems earlier this year, and thought maybe that was part of it. And I still think it was to some extent, right? It's hard to play through some of these injuries, especially in oblique. But his underlying numbers are starting to look pretty good as well. So as long as this oblique doesn't linger, which it doesn't look like it is, I think he can shake it all off, shake all those early season struggles off. And I absolutely think Jake Burger is a lock for the week. I remember hearing someone say one time, Burger is the most corn-fed guy I've ever seen. And I'm not exactly sure I can put into words what that means, but I think I get it, right? He's a farm-raised Missouri boy. He's from Missouri. He's strong like an ox, biscuits and gravy eaten, plowing the fields, kind of tough. corn-fed dude, and he absolutely is locked in right now. So he's finally back. Lock him into your lineups if you are concerned. I am not even a little bit. I think he's back. That will do it, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast. I hope you all have a great rest of your Monday. If you're listening to this Monday, great rest of your week. Please give us a follow and subscribe on YouTube. Respond to us in the comments, ask us questions. We love interacting with people. So let us know. Thank you so much. And I will look forward to talking with you guys on Wednesday.